So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second session of Brave New World. Brave New World is a series of sessions brought to you by We Speak in collaboration with Cultural's IIT Bombay. And today with us, we have a very special guest, Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani. He is the founder and the managing director of the Hiranandani Group of Companies. Dr. Hiranandani is actually known as the builder extraordinaire for his responsibility for actually building the landmark project, the Hiranandani Gardens in Powai, and just changing the entire landscape of Mumbai. His profound knowledge, sharp business acumen, and an ambitious attitude is why we're so honored to have him here to talk to us about this new topic, about the challenges faced by the industrial sector amidst the new normal. Welcome, sir. We're very happy to have you
here. Good afternoon. Good to see all of you. And on Sunday, I'm surprised everybody is up and about, but it's glad to be amongst you all today.
We're very happy to have you, sir. So to get started, I just wanted to know, sir, from a very, so I happen to come from the same school as you, and I know that you've been a very meritorious student to then now being a successful entrepreneur. What was it exactly, sir, that inspired you to undertake this impossible task of changing the entire topography of Mumbai and delivering it with such landmark success? You can just see that in Powai, where it was probably a forest in the past, and you've just completely transformed it. What was the journey like, sir?
Journey was very interesting, and more interesting because actually I come from a family of professionals, professional doctors. My father was a ENT surgeon. My brother was a doctor too. My sister-in-law, doctor. So I actually came from a family of medical guys, and I had no idea. And I was the first generation wanting to seek into business. So absolutely no background whatsoever, handicapped tremendously because, all the professional thinking, truly medical side, no idea what business looks like, forget actually delving into the, quagmire of what business world is, and really started very small. And then, of course, started actually in textiles, a small factory in Kandivali, Charco, where I put up some power looms. Did badly, got into real estate, did badly, and then I had to decide which one to sell. Couldn't decide which one to sell. And the difficulty was that both were doing badly. So which one to sell, the textiles or the real estate? That time I got a notice from the union. The union telling me that they wanted a 10-fold increase in wages. You can imagine. And I realized that that was nonsensical. They would have agreed to a 10% increase in wages. But I thought that was the signal coming from somebody else, not the workers, and sold the textile unit. Leaped straight into real estate in a complete sense of the term, and then didn't look back at all. So that's really the sojourn of entrepreneurship in the beginning to get into new things. So that's a short way of putting it across, of moving into real estate. And then, of course, the story of Powai, which is different, came into a place which was no man land. It was not forest land. It was a quarry land. There were only 20 trees and 250 acres. So it was terrible. And it was very badly contoured and extremely difficult to prepare the whole thing. But it was a large piece of land. And I felt good that I could be able to draw my own cityscape, so to say, in the entire area. That was the beginning of Powai and how it started.
That's really interesting, sir. So coming back to the topic once again. So since the Hiranandani Group is actually involved extensively in development and construction, and both are extremely labor-intensive jobs, the pandemic, sir, now has actually impacted such jobs heavily. So what kind of steps do you believe are necessary now in digitizing this industry and sort of maybe utilizing the latest technology available?
First of all, you have to understand that real estate is the second largest employer in India after agriculture. So if you're trying to say that you want to reduce the labor for the construction industry, it would be a sad plight for the Indian labor because a large number of people get jobs out of the real estate industry, the labor force. Second, it also is connected with 269 other industries, right? From cement, steel, paints, plastic, copper wire, windows, glass, lifts, air conditioning, you name it, 269 industries are directly connected. So the multiplier effect on the economy is such that today, 7% of the GDP of India only comes from real estate. So 15% of the labor of India is in construction and real estate, and 7% of the GDP of the country. So we are not thinking of actually trying to eliminate labor from our thing, but yes, rationalize it, yes, automatize some of it, prefabricated construction, so to say, other things in terms of reduction and improving the efficiency of labor so you can pay them more. All these factors really have to be taken into consideration for the purposes. Now to talk about the labor. What has really happened? You must have seen, you must have heard that large number of people, migrant labor, went away from Mumbai and went to north and east. Most of these labor came from UP, Bihar, West Bengal, and Orissa. What did this mean? It means that there is not enough jobs in those states. And those people came to Maharashtra, came to Karnataka, Kerala, South India to get these jobs. So these migrant labor are an essential ingredient to employment in India. So what can be done? Either you get more jobs in those states, which is possible, and they are trying very hard to do so. And the second alternative being that we would look for other things to do, and labor would become very expensive for us. So it's a problem of migrancy of labor, but it's all over the world in relating to construction. And if you want to increase the construction activity of providing housing for all, there's no other alternative.
That's really interesting. Just sort of digressing from the topic a bit. So in terms of sort of the manufacturing industry, we've seen how it's especially vulnerable to, like, given that the bulk of the workforce is employed in on-site jobs. So with things like social distancing and, health norms coming about because of coronavirus, how feasible do you think it is for these companies now to be able to execute the projects that they had lined up before the lockdown? And are they able to actually, run them properly now since the economy is opening up gradually?
So the answer is twofold. On one end of the pendulum, there are industries which have no problem at all. So we've got a lot of industries like steel, cement, and other things where we don't have these kind of problems of social distancing, and they've been able to get back to efficiency. On the other hand, we have the other extreme, which is things like hotels, hospitality, construction, and others, which are terribly affected because social distancing is difficult. People have still not opened up in terms of the hotels, restaurants, and all these things, aviation. So all these industries are very badly affected, horribly affected. And obviously, this is not going to be handled very well. So we have two extremes. On one side, we have been able to get back to efficient operation. Construction is back by up to about 33% of the total operation. Steel and other factories are back up to 70 to 90% of the operations. Textiles are moving between 50 and 70%. But construction is definitely badly hit. Tremendously, manufacturing is hit, but not to the extent to it. The latest figures indicated that manufacturing was hit to about 20 to 25%, construction more than 50%. These are the figures which were released just yesterday.
Interesting. So this coming from this, I think, as you just sort of articulated well, that there's been a slowdown in the economy, especially in the manufacturing and the hospitality industry. So as students now, sir, what do you think should be our approach to be well prepared, given that we're sort of encountering a recession of sorts, and sort of what is the reality of the job market going to be like, not just in the near future, but also in the next 2 to 3 years?
So first of all, the Prime Minister has said it. Jaan hai to jahan hai, which actually means that if you're alive, then you can think of livelihood. So the first thing is that we have to protect ourselves, and we have to protect ourselves well. And hence, what he has been advocating correctly is to wear masks, keep social distancing, and to see to it that all these other aspects of it are well taken care of. If you do all these things in terms of taking care of the matter, we'll be able to, at least in the short run, handle the pandemic. At least the conflagration and the fire takes place in terms of spread of this will be contained. If we are able to do this, then we can open our economy much faster. And if you open the economy much faster, then obviously jobs will come back and businesses will also be back to normal. So there are two other factors which are important. Factor number one, when will the vaccine come? It's a billions of dollar question. The most optimistic is November, December of this year. A pessimistic thought is March to June next year. And the third most pessimistic thought is it's not coming. So the problem is now between the three, where are we? So my reading is that it's likely to come by, hopefully, by January of 2021, which means by March of next year, you should be having an economy moving back to normal. And I think that will be a very optimistic target. There's another factor which is more easy to understand. And I think Tata Institute of Fundamental Research has given a report this morning on the story of the fact that if you get herd immunity, then we can actually bring everything back to normal. So the herd immunity is expected somewhere in about March of 2021. So irrespective of the vaccine, I think that is likely to happen. So the economy mid-21 should be good. But obviously, industry, especially things like hospitality, aviation, travel, tourism, and others, may not pick up. But construction will, other things will. So there is a good hope of all these factors happening. So maybe by 21 May, June, things should turn better. In the meantime, I recommend all the students who are here today to pick up new skills and new activities in the interim period. Online platforms are available wherein different skills can be taught. So whatever is your main subject, pick up some new skill sets that you need. Even soft skills. Nowadays, that is very important. Negotiation skills, handling crisis skills, people management skills, all these aspects of it, negotiating skills. All these skill sets could also be picked up by the students. You may be hardcore management students, you may be hardcore engineering students, it doesn't matter. But people and industry and business is looking for soft skills from people, and that empathy in terms of workforce is very important.
That's really interesting thing you mentioned, sir, about like skill development. I was sort of wanted to know what is the most primary metric for a company to hire? Is it the soft skill aspect of it, or is it the technical aspect of it? Especially in a time like the pandemic right now, like what is it that the industries are prioritizing? Is it like technical skills or soft skills?
Jamal, your hard skills or the academic skills are taken for granted. You have to know that. So all the students who come from IIT and others, how can you not know your hard skills or your subjects very well? That's taken for granted. It's like when you buy a car, you expect that the base machine and everything will be perfectly working when you buy. So if we take an IIT student on a job, it's fully understood that your academic skills should be 100%. But if you add on soft skills to your hard skills, then you're a different person. Because most of the engineering students or other students do not pick up soft skills. And if you can add on these soft skills along with your hard skills, which is the academic knowledge that you have, you will be much more efficient in getting jobs any which way. It's not about which soft skills are to be done. There's a whole armada of those that you can possibly pick up. And it's extremely important to have a hand-holding for that. There is a second aspect of it, which I must share with the young people. Today, it's not only about good enough to be single disciplinary. You have to have multidisciplinary in order to do it. So for instance, I'm now starting a university in Mumbai, which will now give you multidisciplinary. So an engineering students can also do dance and drama and yoga, can also pick up accountancy, can also do financial management, can also do those. So if you can't do it as a subject in IIT or any other courses, pick up online courses which will give you a multidisciplinary concept that will be there. So you can, along with the disciplines which you have majored in or graduated into, can also get into the other segment.
That's really interesting, sir. I was wondering now that given we have social distancing norms and industries are gradually opening up, how sort of how possible is it actually, like how likely is it that industries are actually able to enforce the social distancing norms on ground? Given that we've seen that factories require people to come in close contact, and it's really hard in India, especially to enforce these kind of things. How feasible is it for companies then to be able to enforce these sort of health norms?
Nothing is done by law. Nothing is efficiently done by legal means. What is really done is to be able to have leadership who brings down and communicates to the people of India the need for these type of things to be done by the people, whether they are wearing masks, social distancing, all the other aspects of it become extremely important for us to know. And this is an important factor because unless we don't communicate to the people, and it is necessary for social media, Facebook, other thing, Instagram, all these should be used visibly to see to it that people do all these things. Remember, one wrong person can actually affect hundreds of people. So your spread is not just 1+1. And many times people do it innocently, go back home, and they infect their parents. And they are more susceptible to this kind of problem. So the kids have to be careful, not only for themselves, but their responsibility to society, to people, their friends, and especially their parents with whom they stay, or the other colleagues and friends that they stay with, because the spread is horrible. And the secondary effect of all these things, long-term effects of this virus, is still not known. So we should be candid and careful to see to it that we are not affected.
That's interesting. So that's a very important message for everybody out there to take attention of. So the word on everybody's mouth these days is China and India's relations with China. The Prime Minister himself has said that we should sort of focus on Atmanirbhar India, etc. How do you think India can actually attract the world's foreign investment, given the sort of mistrust which is being now, which China is being now seen with? Do you think India can be seen as a future hub for foreign investment, and how can we sort of attract it in a better light?
So the answer is, again, leadership, number one, in order to make the change which makes India more attractive. Second, on the ground level, to see that there is less corruption in the system, there is more transparency, there is more ease of doing business. As you must be aware, the ranking of India in the ease of doing business has shot up. The World Bank ranking has shot up.
Yeah.
And this is something which is very good. This will directly encourage people to come to India to set up the industry. But you have to understand that today it's not about we making it easier. It's about how you are easier in comparison with other countries in the world. So let's take the case of last year. 42 textile companies left China because labor costs going up in China. Out of them, 23 went to Vietnam. Only 2 came to India. So the negative part is that we are still not attractive enough to attract all these people into our country. We need to we have done a lot, but we need to do a lot more. So it's not good enough to be competitive. You have to be at top end of the chain in order to see that these companies come to India. Yes, we look attractive, but are we attractive really in the true sense of the term? That is something which you cannot decide. Other people will decide whether you are attractive or not for the purposes of bringing in investments. So we have to work much harder in order to see that prospectively we attract more and more industries to come into India. Then and only then can we become Atmanirbhar. But the point is not that. Atmanirbhar does not mean that you're going to isolate India from the rest of the world. That is nonsensical and it should never be thought of. But it is about self-reliant India. And that is extremely important, that strategically, whatever we need to do, we should do it within India in order to take care of the strategic interests of our country.
That's pretty true, sir. I just wanted to know in this aspect, as you said that we need to sort of create a better effort to be more attractive, etc. How do you think then that what is the role of like various students and the youngsters, especially in the country, to be able to actually push forward India's image and boost it even further to attract foreign direct investment?
I'm happy to tell you that our students have excelled in doing what you are asking for. If you go to the United States, they always will tell you that the most brilliant brains of all the people in the world are Indians. And that is why so many CEOs are from India, so many techies are from India. And all these are very positive indications that we have the opportunity because we have the brains, the infrastructure in order to be the best of the world. But that's not enough because the rest of the world is now competing to take place of India, including China. They are doing so much hard work in order to see that they come ahead of all of us. Every Chinese now starts learning English from standard 1 in their schools in order to see that the advantage which we as Indians have in terms of education is mitigated and they are able to then compete with us. So we have to be competitive, we have to work hard, and we have to see that we are among the best in the world in order to make things happen. That's the only way that you can possibly do it. It needs to become sharper, become better, become still better, and be better than the best.
That's interesting. So the last question, which I'll touch upon before I open it up to panelists, is that so we've noticed that the healthcare system in India is so frail now, like given the pandemic and the nature of it. What do you think now will be the change in the structure of the healthcare system? And second, what do you think will be the change in the mindset of people in terms of their expectations from the government with respect to healthcare?
So it's only a question of prioritization. Let's tell you a story of maybe 50 years ago. There was a time when we had to beg for food from America and Canada. That was I think in 71, if I'm not mistaken, or was it 65? At that time, Lal Bahadur Shastri was the finance minister, was the Prime Minister of India. And he made a statement, which was Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, which I believe must be the war with Pakistan at that point of time. And it was on the military side, and Jai Kisan was the call for making sufficiency of food. Today, fortunately, because of the agricultural revolution, green revolution, which took place in India, and the focus of government in agriculture, today in this pandemic, we have surplus food for giving to everybody for the next 2 years. Of course, thanks also to the good monsoon. But we focused on food and health and invested money into it, gave education to even the farmers in remote areas without any communication in those days, and still created surpluses of food. If we focus on healthcare in a similar manner in the next couple of years, after the negative experiences of the pandemic, I'm sure we will be able to do equally well to set up the healthcare system. So what is required is A, focus on that and see to it that the investment in that sector, both in the private sector and in the government sector, also at the local city level sectors, more investment is done into healthcare, more investment is done into medical colleges, more into nursing colleges. So all this requires to be improved throughout the country, especially rural, smaller, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. All this requires to be upgraded over a period of years, and higher amount of investment in healthcare to GDP needs to be done. I'm sure it will happen now that we have gone through the experience of the pandemic, and we will be able to get better, affordable healthcare to more people of our population than we had before.
That's a really optimistic outlook, and I really hope that actually comes true. So we'd like to now move on to the latter half of the session, where we're going to open the floor to a few students to ask the questions themselves to you. So can we now invite Ankita? You could ask a question now.
Yes, just 1 second. Am I visible?
Yeah. Ankita, I can begin.
Hello, sir. My name is Ankita. I'm a master's student at IIT and I am one of your biggest fans in the whole world. I've been following you on YouTube for a long time, and I'm trying to be multidisciplinary, like you just mentioned right now. I did my graduation in engineering, and now I study government policy. So my question to you is related to that. It is about the startup scene in India, which is taking a big hit because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, we've seen the slurry of government incentives to support this sector, but my specific attempt is to draw your attention to the success story of Israel. The rapid rise of the startup scene is appreciated the world over now. And one of the many factors that helped this rise was YOSMA, the government sponsored venture capitalist program. So, my question is it possible to pull off a program like YOSMA in India? If yes, then how? What kind of government policy support could be needed for that? Also, what more can be done aside from the tax breaks and the cheaper loans that are already being provided? You know, something like skill development, R&D, university industry linkage. From the perspective of an industry man like you, what more does the startup ecosystem need in India to survive the pandemic? That's my question, sir.
Ankita, lovely question. Thank you very much for that. And I'm very glad that you've asked this question because obviously, whenever any negative situation comes out in the environment, we tend to get depressed, and quite rightly so. And we feel pessimistic, quite rightly so. We feel that the future is bleak, quite rightly so. In reality, it's not so because it's exactly the opposite. Because that situation is an opportunity. If you are a startup, you have to start thinking how can we actually use this downturn into an opportunity in order to fill the vacuum which is there when you have to do it. So, for example, delivery of goods through to your homes in terms of essential, non-essential items, and the way all the delivery systems, Amazon and the others have been created and delivered into the space has been different. Look at the creation of masks in the physical way. In different companies have done it. We never had any masks that existed. Today, we have so many masks which are N95, those who are different three-ply masks, those which are, of course, not as efficient masks, but probably more for show rather than masks that are there. But anyway, that's at least the first level of care that is being taken care. Production of ventilators took place, which we were very short of. A lot of companies which never made ventilators went ahead and did it. But what the thing is to look at all these aspects of it, Ankita, as an opportunity. The moment the need of the marketplace is understood by you, you have to work out how technology and the situation can actually do it. Can I share one example? Let's say, for example, I run 14 colleges in Mumbai. I run 8 schools and 2 hospitals. In the colleges, there was huge problem. In the schools, much more so. So we didn't know what to do. The teachers were certainly not equipped in order to do online teaching. We didn't know anything about the platforms. Nobody was aware about how to do it. What are the skill sets required to record lectures, how to actually put them across, push them on the screen and do it. And it's not for one student. In my colleges in Mumbai alone, I have 45,000 students. So how to get 2,000 of the teachers, professors, staff, and other people to get coached into online teaching to be done? Let me explain to you, and happily so, that out of 45,000 students today, 30,000 students are already having online teaching. And the rest have not got admission because of the delays in admission, but otherwise we are 100% into online teaching. Now, this is amazing because it was unbelievable that we were able to do that so efficiently. Now we have set up a system by which you will be able to conduct online examinations. So even if there is a total shutdown, we will be able to do a proctoring system and be able to continue to do online examination. Another thing that was not ever believed or thought of before. Look at the other thing that we are now thinking about in the education system. We are talking about twinning of educational institutions, and we are talking about adoption of educational institution. So if there are two equivalent educational institutions, they will blend it together so that the teachers of one can conduct a class which will not only conduct class in their college, but it will automatically be relayed to the other college as a twinning college. On the other hand, you can have an adoption system by which, let's say, in the urban areas, we have a good school or a good college that will be adopting in the tier 2 or tier 3 cities or in the rural areas, teaching certain subjects like science, like English, like various things where the skill sets at the rural areas is not less. We could have done that earlier. Could have been done and thought of much earlier, Ankita. But because of the pandemic, we said, oh, wow, this is an opportunity to do so and create this new thing. So today we are representing to the Honorable Minister and the Chief Minister that can we work a twinning program? Can we do a mentoring and adoption program wherein the good institutions like IIT could adopt some of these smaller colleges or schools in the rural areas where you could conduct all these things? Online examinations, never ever dreamt of those things happening before. Today, we are ready with it. I can start and conduct by end of October online examinations for 45,000 students. Now, obviously, how could you do it? So that is where startups, that is where technology, where you don't look at the situation as a down. You look at it and see what is the opportunity, Ankita, for a startup to make use of this negative point, service the consumer, service the people, service the students, service the common man, service the people, and find out methodologies by which these startups can work. I've just given you one example, but you can do hundreds of such things. I've already got 10, 15 people talking to us and saying, we want to do this and help you on the education side. Then there is the question of healthcare. We are now able to send from our hospital, even in Powai, where we look after many of these less symptomatic or asymptomatic patients who have got COVID from their residence. So the doctors are available online. They're able to treat them. They're able to look after them. They're able to come and get them checked up, call them only when it is necessary. So we are able to look at them as an outpatient rather than as an inpatient taking the beds where there is asymptomatic COVID cases to be done. Never thought of it before. Why couldn't we do it before? We could have, but we never thought of it. So the COVID actually became an opportunity for us to create some new ideas. I can tell you 50 such things which have happened in the last 150 days. So the idea is use your mind, think of new ideas and new thoughts, blend it with technology and say, what is it that I can be a good solution to the problem that exists? And how can I help in order to improve the efficiency of the system that is okay? So there are hundreds of such ideas that have come up. There are otherwise teaching aids where we have been able to get teaching aids for the teachers to learn up how to pick up new platforms of teaching and learning that need to be done. How can they actually project better the lectures that they are doing? How to record these lectures? How to bring them with animated things and blend it with the teaching learning? How to do quiz learning in terms of actually having quiz competitions. So my law colleges, day before yesterday, conducted quiz learning competition among the students in order to say that the tests would become part of a quiz which would be put up through the law students and do it. So that's a different sort of examination system through a quiz examination. So all these have been discovered in the last 150 days. So Ankita, remember, every time is an opportunity. And the more you learn to look around and say, and those people who say, oh my God, this is such a bad time, are the people who are losing time and not picking up opportunities to do. And the last part of your question, which is what the government is going to do. If you relied on government to do everything, I don't think we will reach anywhere in this country. So we must get the leadership that we need to do, and we need to create infrastructure which only government can do. But the rest of us, it's up to us, Ankita. There are lots of investors into startups which have come up in India. Many of them I know come to IIT. I know many of them personally who've been talking to me about the platforms that have been created in terms of the situation. So there is a very positive angle. But I'm glad you raised the topic, because I always want to put across to the young people that never get depressed in the situation. Keep thinking, keep talking, keep learning, keep discussing. Go on and find out what are the possible solutions to take care of people. And I'm sure you'll get an opportunity for a startup which could become worthy of many multiples of what you need to do. And technology will definitely be a base which would be useful for you to really create that difference which other people may not be able to understand or be aware of.
Thank you for the question, Ankita. Thanks for the answer. I'd now like to call up Aparna for her question. Aparna, if you could please put your video and mic on.
Yes. Yeah, am I visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. So my question is that the corona crisis has affected the employers as well as the employees alike, with a reduction in production capacity, sliding sales, and the possibility and the need to cope up with layoffs, the payments, mandatory payments, and in particular, the aspect of philanthropy and CSR. What are those few opportunities that you see what can actually be taken into consideration or that can catapult your goodwill, given that we have a lot of constraints in the given scenario and we need to cope up with them as soon as possible?
My God, the sky is the limit. You can do so much. You can personally assist many people and institutions which are doing good work. We looked after the migrant labor. We had 4,500 of them. We provided food for them. We provided sanitation. We provided mobile creches for the construction worker children. We gave them masks. We provided them with necessary soap, water, sanitization stuff, gave them and educated them about what is really required to be done in terms of those opportunities. We gave one building in Powai for the purposes of isolating people who were asymptomatic, but there we completely converted many of the beds and wards in the Powai hospital, 80% of them into COVID, taking care of the situation. So all these aspects of it were done by us. As a company, as a group of people, and various other people have done so much work in this sector of different types of different people doing different items of work. Some people have donated money. We have also donated some money for some of setting up some of these COVID beds and others at the corporation and Thana Corporation in Powai, in Mumbai, and all the other places there are there. So in India, the number of people who are poor, who are deprived in so many different ways are multiple. There is no end to the type of CSR activity, Aparna, that you can do. And every individual should do to the best of his or her ability. So if somebody has more, he must do more. Somebody who has less must do less. But nobody should feel that we cannot do or should not do. So I'm glad you raised the question. Nothing wrong. I'll give you another example. For instance, we had about 150 to 200 workers who had got COVID. Now, all these 150 workers who had COVID are now donating plasma. So why not all the IIT students bring up the situation of getting people and donors, bring them to our hospitals as donors to our hospital to donate. Those who have gone through COVID story, bring them, try to bring maximum number of them, because plasma is one of the ingredients which have actually saved so many lives, and you'd be able to do it. And the only way to do it is those who have already got COVID should come and donate plasma to do it. So maybe all of you all can get together, your society, your association, your students can actually market this on social media. We will give you, if you want, some of the material available through our hospitals to ask for that and do it not only to our hospital, all over Mumbai. It could be any part of Mumbai, to other hospitals and government hospitals, corporation hospitals, and other places where plasma can be collected as a CSR activity by IIT students and other students who can actually act as resources for the purposes of propagating this, bringing those people to the hospital, taking care of them for the 1 hour that is needed for the purposes of donating plasma, and so on and so forth. So from the littlest of things that you can do to a lot that everyone can do. But the biggest CSR that you can do is to take care of yourself, which is wear your mask, keep social distances, don't get into crowding with people, take care of the elders at your home, be careful that you don't go back home and infect your parents, your relatives, your friends. This is the most dangerous of all, because the spread of virus can get so damaging that you can have a second lockdown coming. So if we can take care of social distancing, sanitizing, hand washing, and taking due care of yourself and others, I promise you that we may be saved from a future negative effect of healthcare problems, as well as the economic downturn will not get accentuated. So thank you very much, Aparna, for a lovely question on CSR. You can do CSR. Each one of us should do a little bit. It doesn't matter what you do. But the very fact that you will do something will make you overcome this pandemic in a much more better way. People get depressed when they're doing nothing. So if you do some positive activity, it substitutes for depression, which otherwise tends to overcome many, many people who have nothing to do. So this is an answer to many people's depression that has happened. Get involved in some doing activity, some giving activity, giving your time, giving your attention, giving stuff and doing it. It could be a very good thing. I've only given you one example of getting people for plasma, but I can share with you hundreds and hundreds of things that can be done for, let's say, migrant labor, what you can do with them, collect something for giving masks to them, giving them some kind sort of sanitizing materials and all that stuff. Get that together. Go and supervise some of these areas to keep them clean. That's all you need to do. And see that not less dirt and everything is there on the streets or outside IIT or any other place. Push the local authorities to keep it clean, keep it healthy, and things will become much better if we do that.
Thank you, sir. Those
Thank
were
you, sir.
really wise words. Thanks, Aparna, for the question. I'd now like to call forward Diksha for a question. If you could please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Diksha, and I'm a PhD student in the dual degree program from IIT Bombay and Monash. So after listening to all the things that you've been saying, the thing that bothers me is that whenever we are in a situation where our lives are threatened, we always forget about the other thing, which is the environment. And whenever industries move on to throes of recession or losing profits, they overlook environment. So my question is, how can we assure that companies and us as a unit can help in preventing the damage we're causing to environment while facing this crisis? Yeah.
Diksha, lovely question. Thank you very much for that. It's very important to understand that development and environment are not conflicting. If you look at Powai development itself across the street, we had in 250 acres 20 trees. Today, if you add the total gardens in Powai itself, in Powai alone and the hill above, and on the backside of the hill that we take care, we have 100 acres of gardens and forests. So That's the way we have had, where we had 20 trees, we have now 4 lakh trees more than 40 feet tall. So that's the change where development and environment is catered for side by side. The second part of it, in Powai alone, I built a sewage recycling plant of 4 million liters per day 25 years ago. Can you believe it? In the whole city of Mumbai, we don't have recycling of 8 million liters of water per day. Recycling is not done in Mumbai. Fortunately, the National Green Tribunal has now ordered municipal corporation that they will have to recycle the water and 30% to be reused. In all these years, they've been pushing shit into the sea. So now they're required to redo it. And that is now, they have just advertised yesterday that they are going to call for different types of sewage recycling plants, which will take care of the sewage, and those water can be reused for the purposes of gardening, construction, and other things like air conditioning stuff. So that's the change that takes place. So it's a more of an attitudinal thing. It has nothing to do with COVID. It's nothing to do with depression. It's a long-term thought process of what we should be doing. So, for example, how do you look after the health of a person? Only brushing your teeth and having a bath, is it good enough? Do we need to exercise? What type of exercising do you need to do? How long do you need to do it? Do you need to do pranayams and yoga? Do you need to take care of various other aspects like diet and other things? If you do wrong in any one of these things, you eat wrong food, you eat at the wrong times that you possibly do, you overdrink, you take drugs wrongly, obviously all this is going to be deleterious to your long-term health. So what you really need to think of is long-term thinking of how we can improve the environment. So it's not only about you, it's not only about me, it's not only about the city of Mumbai, it's about the national thought process of being able to take care of the environment. And I think that consciousness has come. The Prime Minister was the one ahead to say that all the automobiles must move to the next level of environmental appreciation. So from, I think, September this year, they're going to go through the highest level where our cars which will come in will be the least polluting in the world. Not in India, not in Asia, but in the entire world. So we follow, I don't remember, but I think it's BS6 if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. But so what reality happens is that it's only an attitudinal thing. Once we really focus on it, whether there's a pandemic or there is none, it doesn't matter. So we can always take care of the environment. So whether it is Powai, whether it's IIT, whether it's Hiranandani's, whether it's the city of Mumbai, whether it is any development. Take, for example, Bombay-Pune Road. When it was first constructed, one of the thoughts was, it's going through barren areas and all. They decided to put trees on both sides and in the center of Bombay-Pune Road. So now when you drive on Bombay-Pune Road, you will see trees which have grown in the last 15, 20 years, which are covering both sides of the road and also the central barrier, which have got plants. Now, if the person who was looking after it at that time had not applied his mind to do plantations at that time, that greenery would not have come up. So all we need to do is good leadership, little foresight, and of course, people's consciousness that environment is extremely important. Thank you, Diksha. Good question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question, Diksha. The penultimate question, sir, is from Kedar. Kedar, if you could just unmute yourself. Kedar? Yeah, perfect.
Yes, sir. Sir, very good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kedar. Sir, I'm a master's student as well in the Department of Metallurgical Engineering and Material Science. So my question to you, as you rightly said, is that as a young generation, we need to also develop our leadership skills along with our technical skills, which are supposed to be inborn. Now, my question to you is on the aspects of sustainable development. That from some data we got to know that the arable land available in India per person has been shrunk down drastically to just around 0.1 0.1 hectares, which is 0.3 acres or so. So my question is it sustainable for us in the future run to continue construction activities in the same way, or do you think some changes are required which would help us to make the land availability a bit more for everyone, so that everyone could have enough space on this planet?
So Kedar, it's a very complex question, for the simple reason that when you have surpluses of food today, we have 2 years surpluses of food now in our granary, which means that we have sufficient land for the purposes of growing our food. The question is, of course, is it being efficiently done? The answer is no. We could have done this much more efficiently than we do, and we can do much more productivity. We can see that water retention and other things are taken care of, utilization of drip irrigation and others to conserve water, and to see how water can be recycled in the cities, which can actually do all our gardens and forests and other things can be taken off, which are within the city, like Arimel Colony or Borivali National Park, or all the other areas, gardens, race courses, and all these things, recycling for other purposes of use. So all this becomes useful. So what you need to do is to study what is the kind of need that you need of the land for the purposes of taking care of the population. And can we do it? The answer is yes, we can. And each of the segments have to be analyzed for the best, most efficient use of land. Whether it's agriculture, whether it is industry, whether it is commerce, whether it is business, or any other activity, we need to actually have long-term planning in order to take care of each. Most of the countries in the world have been doing that very efficiently and correctly. We also need to do the same. So here, state-wise and city-wise, we do make plans, but we don't have, Kedar, an integrated plan for the whole country to take it up. We have a federal system under which we have the central government and the states, and then we have local authorities which have separate powers and positions. What we really need to do is much more integrated solutions for all these problems that we are talking about. But the answer is yes, we do have a thought process on how the agriculture side will be taken care of. There are lots of people looking into those ideas and thoughts in terms of sustainability of food. But what we also need to do sustainability of a lot of other things. What about minerals and mining, since you're in meteorology? We have so much resources that are available. How can we mine all those things and still maintain the environment? What is it that we need to do? We are probably the largest producers of, let's say, zinc in the world. How do we really take up those items of production and productivity, which will actually produce zinc for the world, and at the same time, we see to it that the environment in those areas are not taken up. So we need to balance whatever commercial activity we do with taking care of the environment, and also to see that hygiene and health is properly maintained of the people, not only of the people, but also of the flora, also of the fauna, also of all the other activities, of our rivers. We are now brought about consciousness of about cleaning the rivers. Up till now, every industry polluted it. All the cities on the banks of rivers were polluting it. Those are now being changed. We are trying to find out how to increase the water level in every district and other areas, how to conserve water, what is to be done in each city, in each village, in how to get water and reuse it. Mumbai Corporation is not using any reuse of recycling water is not taking place. So all this we really need to do to create a sustainability that you're talking about. And yes, we can be sustainable. We have a long way to go in order to make efficient improvement in each of the segments. What are you and I going to do to contribute to this sustainability? Or are we going to only blame the government for them doing it? Are you flagging it off? How many people have flagged off that the municipal corporation is not recycling water or not reusing water up till now? I've been talking about it for 25 years. I've not heard 25 other voices in this direction. So you as an association, you as IIT students should get together, keep flagging off these issues, work towards it and contribute in order to create a mindset which will help the people in terms of doing the better things which are not being done.
Thanks, Kedar.
Thank you, Kedar.
So the last question for today is from Subhashri Das. Subhashri, if you could just unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. I am
Good
Subhashri
afternoon.
Das. I am doing my master's in applied geology from IIT Bombay. My question for you is, in present scenario, India is facing one of the worst economic downgrowth caused by the nationwide COVID lockdown, followed by the tension between India and China that has caused an economic war. So how the industrial sector of our country can tackle these challenges in near future, if possible?
Of course, we can tackle it. There is nothing that we cannot do. It's only a question of being able to focus on the subject, find out alternative solutions, and work towards it. There is nothing that India cannot achieve. There's nothing that we cannot achieve if we put our minds and thoughts to it. So our governments are working very hard in order to negotiate a settlement with the Chinese. Our military is fighting very hard on the front in order to see that no undue position is done by the Chinese army. All that is taking place while we are ramping up our defenses in order to take care of the situation. I don't want war. Nobody wants war. But everybody wants to work towards a situation to take a one-upmanship. Pakistan is doing the same on the situation through insurgency into our country and whatnot. If all the money India and Pakistan has spent on the war and the insurgency between our two countries, we would have been a far less poor country than you can imagine. So it's a sad plight. So we do hope that we will be able to settle ultimately the position between China and us and not cause a war. We also hope that at some point of time, the Pakistan, our situation, of course, Pakistan is controlled by the army and they're not going to let go because their power is wielded by the army over the polity. And it's more difficult to get a settlement done with them. The Chinese are more clever. They have a bigger economic interest. So I'm sure that a settlement with Chinese will ultimately take place, though they want to show that they are a superpower and they can beat up everybody on the boundary of their country. And that's what they're trying now. So it's a negotiation stance that we are taking. I do hope for the sake of our country that we do get a settlement. But the answer is that we do have solutions. It's not that solutions are not there. The question is, what is the most optimum solution that we can come to under the circumstances of the day? That is important. And on the economic side, obviously, my view is that we over-relied, the whole world over-relied on China. Now, why are you blaming China? In the last 30 years, you took advantage of cheaper goods coming and more efficient goods coming from China. In spite of the import duty, you still found it cheaper to buy those goods over there. So it's your fault too. And if you need to manufacture in India and you have security interests at heart in order to take care of that, not just the TikTok, but much more than just TikTok to be banned, I think it's very important over a period of time for our people to be willing to change their ways. Look at the kind of labor situation that we have. And sometimes it becomes extremely difficult. We need labor reform. We need land reform. We need police reform. We need administrative reform. We need bureaucratic reforms. All these reforms are needed in order to become leader in the world. So while India has a good demographic, which we will take advantage of, including bright students like you from the IITs of the world, we would like to see that the rest of the economy also gets brightened and stuff like that, which will really take place in this country. So good question, Subhashri, and look forward to the very best to you and to all the others.
Thank you, Subhashri, for your question. And so with this, we come to a conclusion of our session today. Thank you so much for being here, giving us your insights and spending close to an hour answering our questions. I'm pretty sure it gave great clarity to all the students who were associated. And I look forward to hosting you someday live at IIT Bombay once again. Thanks a lot, sir, for coming here.
I'm very happy to be there. I love to speak to the students. I love